It's true. Like I went from doing like Eastern tours of Canada in a van, crashing at people's places on their couches to all of a sudden like being flown everywhere, sleeping in a bus, like and just meeting people in metal who I like love and look up to, like,
Mhm.
all those bands that I had mentioned, like I have their phone numbers now. And that was also like an extremely surreal thing for me. It's like all these people who were influencing me and inspiring me are now like my network and my friends, and that's just like that alone was like, oh my god. But yeah, I've been very blessed and lucky, to say the least.
Yeah, and you put in the work for it too, so
Thank
like
you.
it's
I'm so
it's so
tired.
cool. Yeah. Today on the show, we are joined with singer, songwriter, and ever so awesome Lindsay Schoolcraft. We take a look into her history of learning a ton of instruments and what led her to the dark side. I don't know why I said that like the Emperor from Star Wars, but this was such a cool conversation. We also learn all about her time as a member of Cradle of Filth, talk about metal community, collaborations, the sisterhood of women in metal, and a brand new podcast she's a part of called the Witchful Thinking. She also leaves us with some incredible advice for anybody who's dreaming or aspiring to get into the music industry. And I can go on and on about all the awesome topics we touched upon, but why don't you listen to it right now?
Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm just having a chill Sunday.
Yeah, same. Actually, I had like such like a crazy Saturday with like high energies and everything, and just like today I woke up and I ended up just putting on your latest album that you got on your
Oh,
Patreon right
cool.
now, and it was just such like a nice contrast. And I just sat down and listened to it like front to back, just sitting in this chair,
Oh,
and I was thinking, I don't know when was like the last time I just took in an album and not had like distractions around me. I don't know what it is. It's just like this era with like everybody can reach you on your phone, or I usually play
right.
music as I'm like cleaning my house or whatever, but I just fucking took it in and it was just so nice and everything.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. That's I'm honored because that's such a rare thing. I feel like people don't do that as much anymore in general.
Yeah, it even inspired me to like maybe do that with some other new stuff coming out too, because it's been a while and it was just a nice, almost like meditative in a way. And yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit more about this album too, because last week you released it just as a surprise to the people as well, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
what was like going into that, and was it hard to like hang on like all these songs you had as like a secret? Because like a lot of these are just like these beautiful tunes, like,
Oh,
and then
thank
to
you.
finally put it in a package and let it out.
It was something like I just felt I needed to close one chapter to open another because I just want to focus fully on doing my new heavy album.
Cool.
So I started my Patreon in like May of 2021. I think, yeah, it's been a hot minute. And I had like this folder of songs that I made and then left because, I joined Cradle of Filth and that was like a full-time commitment. And it was actually supposed to be like a follow-up to my first EP, Rushing Through the Sky, like just this chilled out, like dark music. And I came back to it through Patreon, and during that time, when I was doing these songs on Patreon, that's like all I really wanted to do. I was just excited about these songs and they were just like completely fueled and funded by my patrons. And I just got to a point where I looked at all the music I had made on Patreon and I was like, "Oh my God, there's an album here." Like it's there. It's not like, yes, I took the time to put together everything that I sent you and have like credits and lyrics and a running order and some album artwork that my awesome sister did. She's a graphic designer, photographer, all that. She's very talented. So I was just like, okay, like I just want this to be done, packaged, experienced, and out there. So now I can just clear my head and focus on the new album that I'm writing. Now that I'm finally excited to do a heavy album again. I know so many people have been waiting so long for it.
Hell yeah, yeah. And I just love the contrast of just your vibes and musical approach too. Like you mentioned the Cradle of Filth stuff, and even like listening to this one album, it's just like this beautiful, like chill type of experience too. And another thing like I enjoyed about it too, it just seemed like the tracks just like flowed like so nicely. Did you like put a lot of like thought into like the order of everything? Because it just seemed like it was just like one thing you can just hit play and just let it go, and it doesn't have like these drastic like cuts. It just flows together.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I actually asked my patrons to help me with the track order. Like I gave it, they all had all these songs, so I just put them in a folder and I said, "Hey, like listen to these songs and let me know." Like I asked them everything. I was like, what should the track order be? What do you think like the themes of the album are? Like what should I name it? What should the cover artwork look like? And they had a lot of really cool things to say, and it led me to being like, okay, like there's a general like feel here. There's a general idea of what emotion and visuals and running order this is giving. So I just like, in my nerdy way of collecting data and organizing it, because that's part of my day job, I just like, okay, this is what people are saying. And then I just had an overview. So they actually helped me make the decision a lot sooner. And it was just easier because like, something a lot of creative people go through is like decision fatigue and analysis paralysis. And I was like, okay, I need help because I shouldn't, as a solo artist, I don't have like a band. Yeah, sure. Like I have people who I work with and work around, but like I have to start accepting like it shouldn't all be on my shoulders and I shouldn't do it all myself. So the fact that my patrons were there and they're like, yeah, I want to help, let me know. That was a super special part of it too. It was a very like community made album.
That's so cool to hear too. And even like I'm sure people who throw you like suggestions that you actually use, that probably means a lot to them as well as like a fan. Like just to be like, oh, like I kind of threw this idea at Lindsay and she actually did it. And like that's gonna stick with them like every time they listen to that album. So I think that's like such a another cool layer to that I didn't know about.
And it's special because like these people are just fabulous people and they've been there for 2.5 years, like helping me make this music and make this album and earn a living. And you know, they kind of they deserve it. Like they it's like why would I just like leave them out of the process if they've been there since the beginning? But they absolutely deserve that. I mean, I think it's different than like taking like suggestions from a complete stranger on Twitter or now known as X, where it's like, no, this is like they're like your family and they have become like family. Like we're all pretty close and we're chatting on the Patreon Discord and all that jazz. So I thought I wanted to do something a little different and make it a little more special. And it definitely took the workload off of my shoulders.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, that's so cool that you got that community too. And like, yeah, like I'm sure another time you guys are gonna collab again on another album. So that's
Oh,
cool.
yeah. Just wait, it's coming.
Yeah. Hell yeah, hell yeah. And even like I was thinking like I know you from like your more recent solo work and being in Cradle of Filth, and I don't know a bit about like your origin of like just music in general, and I'm kind of like curious of how like you got into like piano, harp, singing, and also when did you decide to like really like go down, I guess, like the dark path of like all like the
Oh,
edgy metal shit. Like
the
it's just
darkness has always been there.
yeah, I relate to that.
Oh, dude, that's a big question. I think it ties into my like neurodivergency of like going like hyper focusing on something so much and then getting bored of it, and that's why I play like so many instruments. Like music's always been in my life, and Disney has been a big part of that. Maleficent being my favorite like magical witch, I guess. She's a bit vindictive, but like the whole backstory now with the new movies, it's like okay, it makes sense. I'd be a raging bitch too. So but I think it was just that deciding factor when I was 15. I was like I saw this live Blink 182 DVD and it was like that's it. That's what I want to do with my life and I will do everything to get there. And I don't know, I had a lot of wisdom at a very young age. Like when I was 15, I was like, okay, if we're gonna make this happen, we need to stop with the stuff that's taking away uh from that time to grow and develop and become like a musician and producing music and a live performer. So I like ditched my love of playing Pokemon video games. I ditched
Oh no.
anime. I ditched like all of my hobbies, and like my parents, like they said, they're like, when you were a teenager, you were like the best teenager. You just sat in your room all day playing bass and guitar and writing music, and we never you didn't drink, we didn't have to worry about drugs. It's
Yeah,
like,
they know where you
yeah,
are.
mom and
Like,
dad, it's called autism,
oh,
FYI. So, I just decided, okay, this is what I want to do. And I mean, I've moved from like um being in a pop punk band, like very, very like Josie and the Pussycats meets like Jack Off Jill, my first band. And that was like for
cool.
6 years. And I was playing bass and writing the music and that and like managing it at the time without really owning it. And we went really far. We went all the way to Warp Tour and we got
Oh,
sponsorships and
no
we played
way.
like the MySpace tent. Like, I went all in, but there was a shift in my early 20s because I was changing. And I was like, I don't want to do pop punk and Riot Girl. Like, no offense to it. I still love it to this day. I still rock my Jack Off Jill shirt. And I love Jessica, but like I was like I started really taking a liking to classical music and um opera and classical piano, and it's like the heaviness was always there. Like in high school I was listening to Kitty and Slipknot
Mm.
and Korn and Chevelle, Linkin Park, Evanescence, but it was like, okay, this is not the way the music I'm writing is coming out anymore. It's not suited for like a grimy, edgy like punk band. It's just not that anymore. So then in my early 20s it was like, okay, now I'm gonna take that hyper focus because I'm bored. And like there was this time, you always think about some of the what ifs. And
Yeah.
I actually had this conversation with Alex Webster of Cannibal Corpse recently, and I
Oh,
said,
cool.
if I discovered technical death metal before I made that switch to classical music, I probably would have ended up like playing in a band like Dying Fetus on bass. Like I loved the bass
Mm.
guitar so much, but sadly I felt just limited by what could be done with it. And then I wanted to move like Evanescence back on their Fallen era. I was like, I really want to move in this direction of like melodic guitar riffs with strings and piano and classical backings, and me just being able to like be ethereally singing over top of it. So that was when the switch happened. And then I moved really far away from alternative, obviously just like grasping onto like Evanescence and the Birthday Massacre at the time. And I did like 6 intense years of classical studies, and I ended up in university. And during that time, I got back into metal, but it was like, what was it back then? It was like Catatonia, um, Epica, Within Temptation, Camelot.
Oh
Like that's
yeah.
that's kind of where it was going.
I love
And
that
then,
shit around that time,
oh
like the
yeah,
later 2000-ish or
oh
whatever. Yeah.
so good. Yeah, like I'm trying to think of
Crazy.
the albums. It was like the one, oh, I can't remember the Epica one, but there's a person sitting on it meditating. I think it's
Oh
Design Your
yeah.
Universe. That was a
Yeah, that was
huge
so good.
influence.
Yeah.
So good. And then Catatonia's their most famous one, the Cold Distance. I think I'm saying that right. I could be saying it wrong. I can see the album cover in my head. It looks like a red salad fingers.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know how else to describe that album.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Camelot's Ghost Opera. I think that's what that one
Oh,
was called,
that's
or Ghost Score, or I can't like
no,
remember titles right
yeah,
now.
I think it was Ghost Love Score. I
That's
haven't took like a big Camelot deep dive, but that one hit me hard. Like I was looping that one. But
mm-hmm.
that's like so symphonic and like catchy. Like every hook was just like something that left like a seed in your brain. You'd be singing
Right.
all day. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, I think it was Ghost Opera. I think Ghost Love Score is the Nightwish
Oh
song.
my God. Yeah. I'm
It's okay.
just
Lots of
generalizing
ghosts, lots
all.
of opera,
Yeah.
lots of lots of
Ghost opera
singing
something
ghosts.
something. Oh, yeah. That's so funny.
So and then I think the other one
Apologies
that,
to Camelot on that
yeah,
one
oh,
and Nightwish.
they'll forgive us. And
Yeah.
then Within Temptations, like the Silent Force, and then the one that came after that, which I'm blanking on as well. I haven't had enough coffee, but the follow up to that, and it was just this big cinematic, beautiful, like orchestral stuff with just these clean vocals going over top. And that's something like I have never felt the urge to be a guttural singer. I don't like how I sound. I don't enjoy it. So I'm like, I'm just like, it's just nice to hear clean vocals prominent over heavy music. So yeah, so I was in university, and I went through my first semester. I met the guy who I do all my orchestral work with now. His name's Spencer Cregan, and he's gone on to like be a huge hit in the film score world here in Canada. Really
Nice.
proud of him. And then Cradle of Filth called me, and I thought it was hilarious because I just didn't like them in high school. I loved Dimmu Borgir, and I always was like, no, like,
The little heavier
sorry,
version.
kids. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, sorry, kids. Dimmu Borgir is like far more superior than Cradle of Filth. But I liked Sarah's voice, and I liked some songs from Midian, but I'm like, we just need to get rid of this guy's like screechy dinosaur voice. Like, it's just not doing it for me.
Yeah.
And then they call me, and I just was like, okay, university will always be here. Cradle of Filth won't. I have to go take this opportunity. Um,
Mm.
and I've never gone back to my education in music. I'd love to, but it's there's money and time involved, and that there doesn't always seem to ever be enough of that as you get older. So, or until I retire, if I ever retire. But yeah, it just felt like the right thing. It was a very interesting journey through that band, but they kept me for 7 years, or I stayed for 7 years, and that was it. But like who you saw in Cradle of Filth is just me coming out of my theater kid like villainess, desire to be that
Yeah.
persona on
You
stage. Like
also
that was,
mentioned Maleficent and like you all
yeah,
sometimes had the horns going and
I
stuff
did
like that.
actually have like carbon or whatever, like something printed horns. I can't remember the proper term for it, but I actually got the horns from the new movie. Like someone had a template for them, and I wore
No
them on
way.
stage for like a summer festival run, and I was like, this is perfect. This is fun. But yeah, like it was never like anything that I did when I was Cradle of Filth. It's like I actually like did want to do that like on stage. Like that was purely me being like, I want to look exactly like this because it just fit the whole vibe. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, that's cool as fuck. And even like them like reaching out to you, like how did they discover you? Did they like see like something maybe on like a YouTube or like some tracks you posted? Because that's got to be trippy, them like reaching out to you. Like I couldn't even imagine, like, even though you said like you were more like a demu girl, but even
Yeah.
just getting that call, being like, what the fuck? Like that's
Oh,
part of like your universe of like the music you took in as like a teenager and stuff. It's
yeah.
so
It
cool.
was it was a strange one because I'll try to give both of the backstories. In my first semester of uni, so this would have been 2012, and that's like when I released my first solo EP, and that was being promoted all over my socials. So I got this opportunity to go to Belgium to the Female Metal Voices Festival. I think I could be saying that wrong. It's MFVF in Belgium. And I was like studying for my exams on the plane, and I went there, and it was due to this collective called Eve's Apple, which is like this huge collective of female singers in metal, like supporting one another and doing charity work. And we were given the Friday night to just do like this cool, like choir-esque acoustic like performance, and it was really, really fun. And I finally got to meet people who I had been talking with online for a few years.
Cool.
And in that batch of women, I met Melissa Furlack, and she was in Visions of Atlantis for a while there, and she lives in Minnesota. So we met and we were in touch, and then we all went home. And then during that time, Melissa was contacted to be in Cradle of Filth because Paul Allender, the guitarist, had moved there. And Caroline, my predecessor, she had left, and they're like, well, we need someone. So he was looking around, and he contacted Melissa, and Melissa was just in a very different place in her life where she's like, this is so cool, but I just can't do it. But I know some people who can, and she suggested me and two others, being very close friends of mine, who the two others couldn't do it either. And, it was like, well, like Lindsay's free. And, he went and looked at my socials. I vaguely remember this, and he's just like, like spooky looking chick, sings, plays
Yeah.
piano. Yeah,
Check.
she's a fit, and then it was the strangest day too, because it was like on my great aunt's 90th birthday. We were going to a family reunion based around that. And like on the way, I get this message from Paul Allender being like, okay, so like we need a new keyboardist. So can you just like get a hold of our manager? And I was like, I don't know, like I was like, I may not get this, but I just felt it in my soul like I was gonna get it. I was like, there's no one more perfect for the role. Like I don't know, it was just this strange confidence that came over me. It wasn't arrogant or prideful. It was just like this knowing, like this strong knowing,
Yeah,
like
just felt right
this is
and
gonna
yeah,
happen,
sick.
and I sent well, like two stories. We're on the way to the reunion and I'm like, hey mom, like this really big band contacted me and they have a world tour next year and I'm gonna do it. And this means I have to quit university. And I'm like one of the first people in my family to go to university. And my parents were just so hoping I was gonna complete my my education. And my mom was just so fed up with my shit at that point because I had a pretty tumultuous year between like I, who I was dating and losing my home and like it was a really rough year for me. Um and my mom's like, you're just gonna do what you're gonna do. And then like we didn't
She's
talk
just
about it.
like, I don't care. Like it's oh
Yeah,
man.
but then me and my sister are at this family reunion and she's pounding back like dirty martinis and she's doing her typical neurodivergent, like, I need to know everything. So she's like pulling up pictures of Cradle on Google and like laughing at them and like
Yeah.
just like she's
Seeing
just
like
taking
Danny.
the
Like,
piss out of Cradle at this family reunion. It was so great. And then it was like the longest 2 weeks of my life because I contacted their manager at the time and I didn't hear anything until the new year. And then like the rest is history. I flew out to Minnesota, hung out with Melissa. That was a really fun weekend. And I met Paul and he's like, well, you got the gig. And we went over the set together. And I'm like, holy shit, I just joined Cradle of Filth. Like I was like
wow.
26 going on 27. I was a baby.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but this just happened. And it was a
Yeah.
really fun 7 years.
Yeah, and that's like jumping in the deep end. Because they're doing like Wacken Festival, like it's like you see those shows, it's like a sea of 100,000 people, and it's like
It was. Yeah, like
it's
Priest was
I
like
just got like
80,000.
goosebumps like thinking
Yeah.
of being you up there. That's a crazy.
Yeah, Vakken, where we opened for Priest, it was like 80,000 people. And a lot of people we
Jesus.
love were there to see it, which was really beautiful. But and it's true. Like I went from doing like, you know, Eastern tours of Canada in a van, crashing at people's places on their couches to all of a sudden like being flown everywhere, sleeping in a bus, like, and just meeting people in metal who I like love and look up to, like,
Mhm.
all those bands that I had mentioned, like I have their phone numbers now. And that was also like an extremely surreal thing for me. It's like all these people who were influencing me and inspiring me are now like my network and my friends. And that's just like that alone was like, oh my God. But yeah, I've been very blessed and lucky to say the least.
Yeah, and you put in the work for it too, so
Thank
like
you.
it's
I'm so
it's so
tired.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. Even our email exchange, it seems like you're so busy, and I
Oh yeah.
really respect that too, like just keeping the ball rolling. I hope like you get times for like a little breather. Like I hope
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not taking too much of your
No,
Sunday
you're
and you're enjoying
great.
this.
No, I took
Okay,
yesterday
awesome.
off. I was like,
Yeah.
I at least get one day off a week now because I don't want to burn out again.
Yeah, hell yeah. Even like I think it's so cool. Like I was almost like you too, like I wasn't really deep into Cradle and I was more a Demu Borgir guy as
Yeah.
well. Like I just love the double kick and the aggression and all that shit. But I still remember the first time I saw and heard Nymphetamine, like the video
Hmm.
for it. And it was cool because like around that time I was listening to like a lot of like hardcore music and metalcore. And I used to have this satellite dish that would get all the American music channels, and there was like all these different metal blocks. And I
Very
remember just
cool.
like watching one after school, and that Cradle song came on, and it was the biggest contrast to everything in the block. And I never like heard anything like that. And it also was like just so entrancing to me. Like I just remember just sitting on my couch, like watching their like previous singer, like or the the chick who
Oh,
did like
Liv
all your,
Christine.
yeah, like on the
Yeah.
swing, and then Danny like screaming, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, and I think I like it. Like it was
Yeah.
doing something to my brain chemistry, and yeah, still to this day, I just think that's such a beautiful song, and I kind of want to know like when you're doing something like of walking and like getting to sing that, like how does it feel? Do you have like a personal connection to that tune as well, or like because it's like
Um,
I know their fans are kind of like
yeah, it's a
that's like
beautiful song.
that's like their
It's
Enter Sandman, like the big one.
Yeah,
Like,
there's like nothing else out there like it. It's very iconic and it definitely had a far reach and I I didn't know the impact that it had on the fan base until I joined and then people were like, "Oh, that's like was our wedding song. We walked down the aisle
wow.
to it." And then I covered it. I just did like a very like Lindsay Schoolcraft ballad symphonic version. And then people were like, "We played that one at our wedding. We danced to that one at our wedding." Like someone played it at someone's funeral. And I was like, "Oh my God, like this song is just it's a very iconic, important song. And like now, sorry to spoil it for anyone, I'm absolutely sick of that song. And if I never hear it again before the day I pass, I will be very happy because I sang it so much for like 7 years that like it was just like, oh man, especially like the last 2 years I was in the band, we did two world tours, like one in 18 and then one in 19. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. Like sometimes I have dreams where I still play the whole song in my dream, like front to back. And I'm
Wow.
like, shit. Cause it's ingrained, but like,
Yeah, and they
it,
can't
it
go a night
definitely,
without playing it too. That's like
well,
people
it's
want to
like
see that.
like that would be like going to see Evanescence and them not playing Bring Me to Life. It's like the
Hmm.
same deal. So yeah, it was wild at first. It was exciting at first. And then it just got to what it was, which was like, oh, it's just amphetamine again. But I always, whenever I went up on stage, I really tried to do that song justice because I knew how much it meant to people.
Yeah. Yeah, even like seeing clips of you doing it live, it's just fucking amazing. Like again, it's
Thank
like
you.
such like a right fit, like to go to full circle what we were talking about, and them like I guess like discovering you and all the checks. Like it just
Oh yeah. It
seems
was
like you've been in that
insane.
band since the beginning when you see footage of you working with them. And yeah, it's just so cool. And yeah,
Hmm.
around like everything, all your solo stuff, like you do like a lot of like different collaborations with so many people across the board from like metal and other genres and stuff. And do you like have like a favorite collab that you've had, or like something like just super special that sticks
Oh,
out?
I think mainly like working with Sarah Jezebel Devo was really cool. We've done two songs together now. And then like singing with Cancer Bats was really fun. I
Cool.
got on their acoustic EP and then they included me for like this really special performance that they did. Kind of like when we were coming out of the pandemic, that was really cool. But like one that's really special to me is playing harp for Mirker. Like that was like we didn't work in the same room. It was all remote, but to see how her brain arranges and composes music for an instrument that she doesn't even play, and she sent me, it was
Cool.
like Rivers Blessed, and she sent me her demo, which was done on piano. And she's like, just do whatever you think needs to be done to like adapt this to harp. And I'm like, okay. But I worked on it for like 8 weeks before I recorded it because I had some time. And just, I learned new things and new ideas about composing music that like I would have not have learned otherwise if I didn't do that with her. And then when that came out, I was just like, well, there we go. Like, there it is. I like how she blends folk and black metal.
Mhm.
It's really, really cool. So, yeah, I was really
Yeah.
stoked for her new album. But yeah, like that, I think those have been, there's that obviously there's Motionless in White. That's like still pinch me. I often forget about that one. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened because
Yeah,
it
it
just
was in
kind
a
of like
dream.
came and went. And I was like, holy shit, did that actually happen? Because I've just known Chris forever, and the day he contacted me and said, "Hey, do you want to sing on the new album?" I was like, "When do we start?" Like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, I love your music.
Pick me
Like
up
I bought
right
the
now. Let's go.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
and it was a very quick turnaround, but it was really fun, even though it was all remote. So that to this day, I'm still like, oh yeah, that happened. Like it just, I don't know. I've done so much in the last 23 years of being in the industry. I'm just like, wait, what just happened? Like, and it's crazy because I came from pop punk and then I moved into this weird space of like this like dark, like, I don't know, this dark new metal electro pop thing for a while with like Mary and the Black Lamb. And then when I moved like into metal, I was like, yo, everybody's jumping on everybody's tracks. This is so neat. Like that, there was that community thing. And maybe I just didn't see it or know about it because I was on such a local level before where everyone's like, oh, I have to prove myself. And like, no one was thinking in that mindset of like, let's compose a song and get like a guest vocalist on it. Whereas like, on the level that metal does it, it's actually like really exciting. It kind of cross contaminates like fan bases for exposure and it just makes the song so much better if you do it right. Like I'm really I want to say like I don't know how to put this, but I like as someone who writes, composes and arranges music, I'm a real snob in the sense of like I can tell when a song was written for a part or when like they were just trying to shove a guest
Mm,
vocalist on it and I'm like, "Oh,
yeah.
that you know,
There's a lot
it
of those actually.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, like this is rough. This is like this was unnecessary. But I feel like in metal it's done better more times than it's not done great. I guess I don't know how else to put that. But in metal it's usually done really, really well for the most part, and it's fun seeing all the different collaborations.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm seeing it more than ever. It's kind of like reminding me of like a lot of hip hop I used to listen to in the 90s where they'd all like
Yes.
have like these gang collaborations of people from different stuff. And I remember being younger and I'm like, why doesn't metal do that? And now they do that. So it's
Oh
super
God,
cool. Like,
everyone's doing it,
yeah, I feel
including
like even
me.
over the pandemic era, like people sending each other tracks and making these little collab YouTube videos. It's a beautiful
Oh
time right
yeah.
now. Yeah. Even
Yeah.
in the background, I see you got a Agonist poster. Have you worked with Alissa or
She's a dear friend. We
amazing?
did actually work on something together, but it just never came to fruition. It was like a ballad, like back in 2013. I think she finally released it on her Patreon. I haven't heard it, but if there's harp in there, that was me.
That's you? Yeah, nice. Yeah.
But no, I was really sad when I found out that they just like dismantled
Me
and
too.
ended things because this album here, Lullabies for Dormant Mind, was actually just like I discovered it, just before I joined Cradle and I was like, wow, I didn't know this like metal could be this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it was like one of those like you got a vocalist who alternates between clean and guttural really well. It's super progressive. It's just like, and it was I don't know, I just thought it was something unique and magical.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I love those guys and I hope
Mhm.
that everyone's doing well despite current events.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I got into them around like their album prior to that one. And again, it was just almost like the experience you had where I saw this. I'm like, what is this? I didn't know metal could be this. And
Yeah.
it was interesting. I used to just go to like a lot of like when I was in college in Hamilton, they tour there all the time and I see them play in bars in front of like 20 people and I'd have a few chats with like Alissa and actually got like this board with like a lot of like signed like records and I got the first one and she wrote like a little note on it for me too. But I remember her kind of like being in like a grind mode and like struggling, like selling her own merch. They were sleeping in a
Yeah.
little van and then cut years later, again, I'm like getting goosebumps like talking
Ah.
about this, but like seeing her in Arch Enemy now and again
Yeah.
like Fest too and like I've had many combos with her like over a decade ago. I don't think she'll even remember me too, but like I like inspired. I'm like, yo, like seeing somebody from that level to just you fucking did it. You're doing the dream right now. So every time I see her doing like something with like Arch Enemy and stuff, like I still think of that girl selling her merch and like signing
Yeah.
every CD. And I'm like, she
She was
fucking
just
worked
so
for it. It's awesome.
Such a fabulous person because like she grinded really hard. Like I remember back then she was like making like almost arts and craft stuff and like selling it online, and then she had so much time for like animal liberation, like
Mhm. Yeah, that too. Yeah.
and that's kind of how like we got connected because there was like a reptile rescue out here that the city was going to shut down and exterminate all the animals, and I was like help, and then we played a show together with my old band and we got connected, and then all of a sudden I'm in Cradle, and the first tour Cradle I was supposed to do with Cradle was canceled. It was at the beginning of 2013. It was for North America, and it was like Decapitated, The Faceless, and The Agonist were opening, and
Oh,
her and I were
fire.
so excited to tour together. We're like, oh my God, like we're gonna we're gonna go on the road together. It's gonna be so much fun. And then it got canceled, and I was in bed for 6 weeks just rewatching Gem and the Holograms. I was really bummed out.
Oh.
That was really stressful. But then, flash forward to a year later, I'm on tour in Europe, and she calls me. Like she was like, I was one of the first people she told. She's like, okay, like DL, you can't fucking tell anybody anything. I locked myself in a bathroom. I remember it was like this weird venue somewhere. We're on tour with Behemoth, and I found this
Cool.
bathroom that was kind of soundproof. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And she's like, dude, like I'm like officially an arch enemy. I'm like, oh
Wow.
my God. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I was so fucking happy for you. Like we just lost our shit. It was super cute. And that was, and then just seeing her do what she's done, I'm just so freaking proud of her. Like she's an incredible musician and writer and creative, but also like just continues to fight for animal lib, and like as a business person as well. I just have so much respect for her. So she's been a big positive influence on my life because she helped me go vegan, and God, I've been vegan like going on I think 11 years now. Like she just, and with my sobriety too, because she doesn't drink either. So
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
cool
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, that's awesome that you guys kind of have that sisterhood in the metal universe because like
Hmm.
it's a lot like a boys club too, but I feel like less now than it was before. Like there's you see like a lot of different bands with like females like leading the charge and everything, but I
Yeah.
feel like back in like the early 2000 it was like really rare like even hearing Angela in Arch Enemy. I remember seeing the video first and then showing my friends like just the track. I'm like, hey, this is a chick singing. And they're like, no way. Like, but it's
Like
cool.
yes way.
Yeah. But now it's like it's cool. It's normal. You see stuff like Ginger and it's just like or like all these like TikToks they're on and like just like you see them the process of doing the vocals and it's cool. Like
Yeah. It's nice. There's so many women there now. Like we've got Spirit Box, and we've got
mhm.
I'm trying to think of some other ones like Dying Wish, and oh my gosh, there's just so many. Like I feel like we've worked so hard and we're so prominent in the scene now, and it's yeah, there's definitely like a girls club too. Like
Yeah.
it's not just for the boys anymore.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. And yeah, it's cool like even like I noticed like in the past few weeks you started podcasting yourself with
Oh gosh, yes.
the Witchful Thinking and like tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that. I think that's super cool.
Well, like, I've always identified as magical. Unfortunately, I was raised in a Roman Catholic school system,
Same.
and it just never made sense to me,
Mhm.
and it just did not resonate with my soul. And then as I moved, out of that into my 20s and 30s, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this all makes way more sense to me based on like my internal moral compass and my experiences. And so that's always been there. But yeah, I just kind of found the podcast, I think, over the pandemic, and I started listening, and it was just really nice. It was like, listening to Brooke and Liz, who are the hosts, just go on about what they did. I was like, these are two really cool chicks who are bringing awareness to, healing childhood trauma and working on yourself, and believing in yourself and manifesting and developing and building the life that you want for yourself. And I was like, this is just like right up my alley. And then they opened it up for guests, and I ended up being on the show, I think 3 times before, you know, Brooke was like, I think we need another person. And I was like, well, like, I would love to do this with you guys. And did that was it. Like
So
I
cool.
started 2024 being their third host, like a co-host. And I'm really just jumping in and winging it. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't really know what it means to be a podcaster. Um, I think it's personality first and then figure the rest out later. But we're slowly opening that back up. I mean, they're like the Witchful Thinking podcast, I think is one of the biggest, most successful um podcasts in like the new age spiritual realm, I guess, to say. And like for them to have me on and open me up to that, I'm really appreciative. And they let me be myself. And yeah, it's been a cool new experience. It wasn't something I expected, but it's something for me that like I enjoy doing with people I really like, especially after like long stressful days in the office, working on my career and doing what I do for a day job. It's like I just need something to just like unload and have fun with and talk about my, similar interests somewhere within my kind of people.
Yeah, that's awesome too. And even recently I did like coverage. I mentioned to you in like an email like for around this film Coven, and just
Yeah,
like
so
following
cool.
like some witches around, like real life witches. And it's funny when you tell people that what they perceive a witch of being compared to actually what it is. And like you mentioned, it's just like
Yeah.
almost like this beautiful thing of just following your intuition and natural healing. And it's so nice. And I find like just recently I just keep like meeting all these like witchy women, and they're becoming like good friends in my life. And like I
It's
don't
not a
know,
bad
like
place to be.
yeah, but it's almost like a vibe thing too. Like I always feel
hmm
like I've had like this strong like intuition, and I'm like a heavy empath, but growing
hmm
up I didn't even know what that meant. And like I was even like scared to talk about it too, where I would like almost either manifest things or feel vibes on certain people, good or bad, and them being true type of thing. Like I feel like there's some
hmm
layers to this world that I don't totally understand, but I'm like on this journey of like hoping to figure it out. And if not, it's just kind of going with the flow. But every time I talk to somebody who's like, I guess like consider themselves like a witch or whatever, I'm like, you make a lot of sense to like how I feel inside in a way. Like
Well, I think that's good that you're in tune to like, your vibes and your feelings. It's like it's all energy at the end of the day. Like it's very
hmm
scientific too. So that makes complete sense. And I think there's been such a resurgence of this because it is extremely empowering and liberating to women, where a lot of monotheistic religions which run the world are extremely patriarchal and misogynistic.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think it's good that women are coming back to their power and being like, no, like you don't have to get married and have kids. You can be a businesswoman. You can be an entrepreneur. You can build an empire. You can live how you wish without judgment and prejudice. And it's just such a beautiful thing that we're shifting into that space. So I think that's just going to be something that's continuing to be on the upcline over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's just nice because I'm all for equality and everyone feeling good in their own skin and in their own gender, whatever it be that they are or they choose.
Yeah, and even like the origins of society, like I guess condemning people who are like quote unquote witches. It was just like when you look at the history, it's just fear of women in power. Like, and
Yeah, that's exactly it.
it's it's fucking like disgusting. And like, but what's crazy too, like I mentioned that documentary, and I interviewed this girl, Laura, and she had like her kind of life journey was like she always felt like this intuition and like felt like a witch when she was like in high school and stuff, and didn't know why. Like all her family is like totally not that. And then in the movie she kind of follows her intuition again, kind of like meets like a coven, like trying to learn about herself and like what this is.
hmm
And then even like this is the spookiest thing, she goes to like her home country. I think it was like Ireland or something.
That makes
And
sense. Checks out.
yeah, and like just goes back in her family tree. And again, I'm getting goosebumps. And it's like a great 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 like grandparent or something was like a witch and was killed. And
Yeah,
it's
that
like
makes
the
sense.
spookiest, like, oh my God, like where it's there's like that much disconnection in her family, and then her, and it's like an emotional part in the movie too. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
she's a cool one to talk to. If you guys ever looking for a guest, I'll connect
Oh,
you
actually,
guys.
yeah, please hook that up. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
I mean, if you look through your family tree, I'm sure you might find someone who was extremely intuitive or, you know, like it's all there. Like I didn't realize it until I really started tracing back my roots and I got lucky. I got to spend a lot of time with my grandparents before they all passed away. And on my dad's side, which is like Irish, Scottish, my grandma, his mom, was extremely psychic. Like she just would get vibes and know what was happening to people. And I inherited that gift. Like
Oh,
something
cool.
happened to a friend this weekend, and I was like, I just knew right away. And then 4 days later, yep, they broke up with their partner. And I'm like, okay, like you just, you have that gift. But then I like the really special thing that I'm tracing back right now is on my mom's side, her dad, I would lovingly call my Opa, but we're not actually German, we're Romanian. You know, he was extremely intuitive. Like he would have premonitive dreams, which I don't have as much anymore. But he was like unfortunately he had a head injury and he was a little woohoo as he was older. He got really paranoid and really into conspiracy theories, bless him. um I'm kind of glad he left us before the pandemic because oh God, I
Do
can't
you think
imagine
the
what would
head
happen to
injury broke one thing but unlocked another thing? Maybe like you felt,
probably
yeah.
like probably it happened to him at a very young age. He was kicked in the head by a horse and he actually
Oh,
survived it because you think
oh,
like in
poor guy.
1930 something, like they don't have the medical of like I guess like technology and advancements that they do now. So he almost died. And but we come from the very southern tip of like the Transylvanian mountains, or sorry, Carpathian Mountains in Transylvania, but like they were in this weird province called Bukovina. So my Oma was from there too, which is modern day Ukraine. But she was definitely like, as we lovingly say it, like a kitchen witch. Like she just the love and energy she put into that food, like no one in my
Oh,
family can recreate those recipes because it was all in her head and it went with her. And it was just like she was really
that's
magical.
beautiful.
She's a beautiful human. She was the most loving, like positive person. And then you had like my Opa, and I look at photos of him and I'm like, he's Romani, he's Roma. Yeah, like I look at him and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like and I'm learning a lot today about what is going on over there and the discrimination against Romani women and like how they're not encouraged to get an education. And I'm actually like very grateful that my whole family immigrated over here to Canada because if we stayed in like, well, my parents would have never met, first of all. I don't even know if I would have been born if you want to go that crazy down like the what ifs. But I'm glad we left Romania because like here in Canada, growing up in this like mixed, Irish, Scottish, Romanian household, there's a lot of opportunity, and I would have never have been able to do what I've done with my life. But I'm still trying to trace back my roots in Romania because the Irish, Scottish stuff is a little bit blurred, and I don't think we really took care of our family trees that well. And yeah, there's people with like these intuitions and talents, but I would really love to go study the witchcraft back in Romania, but that means I have to learn the language. And I think Mihaila Minka, her and I follow each other on socials, and she is so incredibly talented and powerful. And I would love to learn from her, but that requires a lot of work on my end first before I can go
Yeah.
learn and study under her. It's all oral. It's all in like apparently 1,000-year-old Romanian language that is like a dead language, almost like Latin. So
Wow.
yeah, that's just something for the future. Like I have
Another
many,
adventure.
yeah, that's like, I still want to work on music and I still want to do like what I love for now, but like, we forget, like we all get tangled up in our 20s and 30s, like I have to do all the things and I have to do them now. And I think it's also just a neurodivergent issue in general. But it's like, well, no, you have your 40s and your 50s and your 60s. Like there are going to be new chapters of your life coming
Yeah.
where, you
My
know, maybe
brain
I,
thinks I'm gonna die tomorrow.
yeah, I
It's
think we
like
all
I
live on
gotta
this
know.
like tomorrow's not promised, live for today. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like take interest, but like don't feel
Yeah.
that you have to like dive down that, you know, and it's like, you know, I'm sure there'll be a decade of my life where I will go into production and be a producer. And I'm sure there will be like 5 years where I do go to Romania and learn under Mihaela. And like
Yeah, yeah.
it's just they like life is just like never ending. There's so many, you know, cool things that you can do. And it's like, yes, I've lost friends at a young age, and it's like, okay, like, you know, remember tomorrow's not promised. But that's also just given me a great sense of gratitude. Like my poor boyfriend, I tell him every day how much he means to me, and he never
That's
gets sick of it.
beautiful.
But I'm
Yeah.
like, you will get sick of it. I tell my friends how much I love them and appreciate them like on the regular. But he's just been so healthy for me and wonderful. So I'm just like, you're so great. Thanks
Oh,
for
that's
being
so
so great.
nice.
He's like, I don't know what I did. And I'm like, you just accept me for who I am.
Yeah, you're
It's
just you.
yeah, it's just super gross. It's super gross. But I
I
mean, I
love it.
think we need to tell people how we feel about them because we don't know when we're gonna go or, you know, when we're gonna lose them. And losing a lot of people close to me over the last like 20 years has really taught me that. I think that's important.
Yeah, I feel like I've lot that, or I learned that same lesson like very recently too. Just a lot of people have gone like where you think they're gonna be around forever too, and yeah, I totally
Hmm.
agree with what you say. Like, tell people you love them, like, and it's even like I feel like it's like a learning process for me too. Like, it's just like, oh, I don't want to sound weird, but now I'm just like, I don't give a fuck anymore. And if they think it's weird, that's on them. You know, I love you.
I love you,
So,
man.
yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's such a cool talk. And even like you mentioning about like maybe one day going down that path and learning your history, it kind of like
Hmm.
sparked something where I want to reach out to the director of Coven, maybe see if they're interested in following that journey,
Nay,
because
sure.
that's what happened with the other girl too. It seems like a natural sequel too. Like you're the story's there, and also like that would be just sick if you did that and everything.
Oh yeah, it's there. I just have to learn Romanian
Yeah, it's a
because
lot.
I could pick
But
up
then you
on a
can write
few
songs
words,
in
but
Romanian,
oh,
like later
I mean,
down, like
yeah,
boom.
yeah.
Dude,
My side project Antiqua, it's like a chamber black metal band. We already do stuff in Romanian. It was just a natural choice because Latin is just so overdone in metal. So I mean, I should probably start learning, but I don't think it's gonna be this year between like, you know, my day job and like doing my new album and like doing but like being a podcaster now. It's like, okay, where does like
yeah.
learning Romanian fit into any of that?
Yeah, it does.
It
You gotta
doesn't.
listen to like one of those audio like lesson things where and just like put it on your head while you're like sleeping or something, and
Yeah, literally,
hopefully
I
it
think that's it. Yeah, or like just get Duolingo to yell at me when it gets all sassy. It's like, you haven't done your homework today. It's like, I'm not paying you to tell me what to do.
Yeah, fuck
Duolingo.
you. Yeah. Oh, this
Yeah.
is such a fun talk. And I guess as a final question, like if there was like maybe a girl like yourself, like your younger self in her room learning all these instruments and almost a similar type of like personality and everything, would you have like any advice to that person to kind of turn their musical passions into a profession?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, there's so much I'd want to say to like my younger self or like someone who's like me, but I think you have to be honest with yourself and you have to be authentic with yourself. That's the only way everything's gonna really work out. Like you have to like it when you're younger and you meet people who are quote unquote in the industry and they tell you something, that is not the be all and end all, and that is not your truth. The the industry though, like I wish sometimes there was a union in an HR. Um, it can be anything that you want it to be. And I look back at 23 years, it'll be 23 years on my birthday, and I never saw it this way. I never saw it this way 23 years later. Like I truly thought in my 20s I was going to get like a massive record deal and be a superstar. And there were moments that it almost came to that. Um, and then Paramore came and stole my the thunder of my first band. No,
Oh,
kidding.
the
Um,
bastards.
no, they're amazing. You know, uh, but really it's like I've always just followed my own path and done what I'm excited about and went all in. And I think that's the most important part is like to just be true to yourself. And if you are a solo artist, remember you can't do it all alone. It's okay to rely on
Mm,
others. It takes a while to find the right people. Unfortunately, I've trusted my precious, precious career and music with like people who teeter more towards narcissism because those run rampant in our industry. And it took me a very long time to spot the red flags or the whole carnival from a mile away and be like, nope. Um, but I think the most important thing is your own craft. I know that sounds really like a pun coming from me, but your musical ability and what you develop in your skills with playing your instruments and writing your music and arranging it and producing it and performing it, no one can take that away from you. Like that is yours alone. And I think focusing the most on that, especially when you're younger, like, I just picked up my harp yesterday and I haven't picked it up in like maybe a few months. And yeah, it took a minute, but it's still there. And that's something that just like no one can take from you. I'm even going back to playing the bass guitar on this
cool.
new album.
Nice.
And that was my first instrument, but I'm glad that I took the time to really fully appreciate and dive into and to the best of my ability be good at these instruments because that is something that just like like there's so many things that go on in the industry if you want to go down that path where there's gatekeepers and there's abuse and there's like cliques and there's just it can get rough. I'm still dealing with that at this age and in this day. Like it's still a thing, and to navigate that is really tough. I think more than anything, just don't be a dick. Like have a good reputation. Be kind and don't let your ego will destroy your whole career. If you
Mm,
get greedy and arrogant and like entitled, that will repel all the right people that you want to work with. If you're just like kind and communicate and organized and you show up on time and you appreciate people, you will have longevity no matter what your career is going to look like. But that's like I've just seen so many like over the years I've seen local and like getting out of local and then like getting into the industry and then the highest echelons of our industry. I've seen these beautiful, talented people with just the biggest ass egos, probably because they haven't gone to therapy and they haven't dealt with any childhood trauma, just
mm.
completely destroy their careers and their potentials and push away all the right people and hurt themselves. And it's like, it was never worth it. Just, I look at it, I'm just like, this is why your life sucks. You are the reason your life sucks. You're the
Yeah.
reason your career sucks. And it's very hard to watch, especially when you find out it's like people you blindly like worshipped when you were younger
Oh, that's the
and who like
worst.
that was heartbreaking. There was two, I
Yeah.
won't say who, but there was two big influences on me
And it's
when I
probably
found
like
out.
weird to go back and listen to their music now because you think of that. Like
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
you
I
can like
luckily there's
disconnect.
this
That's
beautiful
good.
thing called disassociation.
Yeah, nice,
um
nice.
but it took me, it was a very disappointing, heartbreaking thing to be like, oh, like you're just you know, a child who got famous at a very young age and you've not grown up and you continue to repeat these really destructive patterns. And that's why your band has been quiet or hasn't been, you lost your PR people, you lost your label, and like you make great music and you had this whole great team around you that, you didn't appreciate and try to work through things with, and they quit or you let them all go. And it's like that's literally why it comes down to why bands can't keep a lineup. It's usually the problem is the person who stayed the longest. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. And it's because they just did not, they got greedy. They got in, I don't know how else to put it, as the Brits say, they had their heads up their own arse, as they always put it, and they just they lost it all. And that's the thing. Like I still to this day, sure, I don't work with my old band anymore from high school, but we're still all friends. And I'm not trying to like get on a high horse and be like, oh my God, I am Mother Teresa. I'm so great. I'm just saying, like, I've worked with the same group of people for a very long time because we all treat each other well and there's
Yeah.
common respect. And at the end of the day, it's about making great music. And then on the business side, it's about employing these people who do a good job. You know, that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, just like moving away from music for a second. That, like, as an entrepreneur, you give people jobs so they can afford food and keeping shelter over their head. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And that's another thing. I think a lot of musicians probably grew up in a home where money was king or they just saw money issues. You have to get over your issue and your relationship with money if you're going to have longevity in this world too. Like you really have to have a more positive perspective on what it means for you and the people around you when you take that step and you turn your craft into a business, because there's a lot of beautiful things that come from that. It's not about like you making $1 million and then like, you know, or $1 billion. Like, I don't know when the last time either than Swift made $1 billion, but like, you know, and just screwing off and buying an island and never talking to anyone again, although that would be lovely. But
Yeah.
it's really about like you paving a way forward. And this is important as a woman because it has been such a boys' club for so long, but paving a way forward and giving this group of wonderful people the opportunity to gain an income based off of like you started all of this. So, you know, there's so many things, but you learn it every step along the way. And I found, you know, I'll close with this, like any of the mistakes I made, um, and I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong and take accountability, and everyone knows that. I've really worked to make sure that my reputation is okay. Like, you know, check yourself before you wreck yourself. But if I was working with like the wrong person or the wrong type of person, if I didn't learn the first time, it would come back the second time even worse, and then it come back the third time even worse. And it's just like, okay, like I'm being told like you can't keep
Yeah.
making this mistake
The
anymore, or
signs are there.
it's gonna end you. So, you know, it's really a like you have to go at it yourself, but I think educating yourself and being true to who you are and what you want to do. Like at the end of the day, you have to follow what really lights you up inside, because people see when it's lighting you up inside and people can see when it's not lighting you up inside. Like it's there in
True.
the production, the writing, the performance. So just like, yeah, just stay true to yourself.
Ah, wonderful words. Just love your soul and passion.
You're so sweet.
Thank you so much for like this conversation today. I know we went like an hour. It feels like 10
It's
minutes.
fine.
Like I probably could like just sit here for like 5 hours, but I'm gonna like let you enjoy your day. But like I thoroughly enjoyed this and I really thank you for this time your time today.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I think we tried to connect like right when the pandemic hit and it just didn't work out. And now it's
Yeah.
like, here we are. This is great. I'm super happy.
Yeah, I think this is a better timing too, because before then, like
Yes.
I wasn't as good as like an interviewer, and like it's just like
I was a mess back then, you know, and it wasn't even because of the pandemic. It was just due to burnout and mental health. So I'm glad we like talked now because I'm in a more healed, empowered place. So this is great.
yeah, this is super cool, and yeah, to officially meet you and everything, and I
Mm,
knew it was gonna be a good one. Like again, like going back to what we were talking about, the intuitions too, just for, like from your emails and your vibe, it's awesome, and I'm
you're
sure
very sweet.
we're probably gonna like cross paths sometimes because I always see like on
Hmm.
your stories, like sometimes you're at the same like metal shows as me and stuff. So
Oh
next
yeah,
time.
hopefully we'll meet in person. Yeah. Like keep in touch. Let me know when you're heading out to stuff or just shoot me a message. I'll be like, "Yep, I'm here."
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah, it'd be great to meet you in person. And yeah, again, can't thank you enough. This was a fucking awesome episode, Lindsay. And yeah, again, I hope you just have a great day and we'll keep in
you
touch and I'll
too.
talk to you soon.
For sure. Thanks again for having me.
Boom! Hope you enjoyed my chat with Lindsay as much as I did. Like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you can check out a lot of Lindsay's new music on her Patreon. Search for Lindsay Schoolcraft and follow her on socials. Keep in the loop, you know? She's working so hard. You'll continue to get updated on new releases and some episodes of the Witchful Thinking podcast and all the awesome stuff she does. And before we go, like always, I can't run away without thanking all you legends on our Patreon page. First up, the biggest thanks to Mike Carniello of the Testing with Mike YouTube channel. If you're into technology, electronics, how they work, and most importantly, how to fix them, Check out Testing with Mike on YouTube. Another big thanks to Amanda McKnight of Top 10 Nerd. Not only is Amanda the host of Top 10 Nerd talking to millions of subscribers, she's got her own YouTube channel that you should definitely check out. If you're into comic books, video games, movies, and all things nerdy, type in Amanda McKnight on YouTube. Another big thanks to the wonderful Jenny Potter, the legend Devin McBride, the number one gent, Alan frickin' Kent, our favorite soul singer, Saber, and last but not least, Francis Coffer, aka my mom. If you want to shout out at the end of the show and also get these episodes early, raw and uncut, right when I'm done the Zoom call, I just post them. You can go to patreon.com/thecreativeimbalance. It's only $4 a month, and beyond having my thanks, you can just go to bed at night and sleep soundly, knowing you're a badass motherfucker who supports raw, uncut, independent media. And nobody can take that away from you. You hear me? With that being said, got so many episodes for you around the corner, lots of recorded in the bank. You Patreon people know. Stay tuned. Subscribe if you're watching this on the YouTube. Follow if you're on the Spotifys, the Apple Music, all that jazz. And we'll catch you next time. Cheers.